Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Africa Straight Talk. We are Africa's unapologetic podcast that dives deeper into the African immigrant experience in a unique and straightforward way. I'm Emmanuel Nadeau, and we truly appreciate your continued support of our podcast. Join me today is my co-host, Kwesi Wilson, a communications studies professor at the College of Alameda, and the host of the podcast, Telling Tall Stories. Our co-host, Zika, has taken the day off. If you want to be a guest on our show, email us, africastraighttalk@gmail.com. Kwesi, welcome. Let's get started. How are you?
Yes, I want to speak like you. Get that radio voice. Hey, if you want to email us, africatraighttalk.com. No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm
good?
alive.
Yeah.
I've had a bit of a life challenge. My dad is ill, so that's been quite some challenge the last 2 weeks.
Oh, but, sorry to hear that. Your dad is here, huh? Or no, your mom is here.
My mom is here. My dad is in Ghana.
Okay.
And, he fell and broke his something in his back. He's unable to walk, but they said he'll be able to walk now. And so just that stress of, hospital, moving him here, all this other stuff. But I got good news that he's going to pull through. So
very well.
Yeah.
Very good.
But,
well, we've been trying to get together to talk about this thing that happened at the United Nations the other day,
Oh, yes.
Your country, Ghana, put in a resolution to recognize slavery as one of the gravest crimes against humanity, push for reparation, and it passed.
It passed. And look, that is music to my ear for multiple reasons. Because for the longest time, my biggest approach to addressing reparations is having a critical mass. Because the fight for reparations have been in silos. So you have Haiti fighting alone for reparations. You have Namibia fighting alone for reparations. You have different countries, Brazil fighting for reparations. And when we fight that way, just the black people in Brazil or even African Americans here, it's very easy to be dismissed as a small group of people, minorities within the country. But when we all of us, have one voice and we go to the entity that is supposed to deal with global affairs, United Nations, and table this as the gravest crime against humanity and have 156 countries support
actually 172 countries.
172? And then I think 52 abstained.
Yeah, abstained.
Three voted no.
Yeah. So
the majority of the world side with us. And it's interesting who voted for it and who voted against it or abstained.
Of course. The thing is that the most amazing one is that those three countries that voted against, they didn't abstain. They just voted against United States. United States, Israel, and Argentina. And it wasn't surprising that each one of these countries voted against the resolution because United States benefited largely from slavery. Okay. And then that, Argentina, as we know, erased its black population through a state policy that whitening the population, even though at one time blacks were the majority of the population over there. Then Israel supported the racist South African government in various forms, So we know that those three, it wasn't surprising.
It wasn't surprising, but there's also a more present reason. This is at a time when Israel is having United States wages war for it in Iran, right?
Yeah.
So they couldn't go against US and say, hey, And then Argentina had financial support from United States.
Yes, recently, yeah.
So they are going to go in lockstep with United States, otherwise they will mess up their money. So I think
that's it.
They could have abstained.
Yeah, they could have abstained. Yeah.
But the reason why I believe they actually voted no is because they wanted to show allegiance to the United States. That is probably the main thing. But what is even more telling is all the countries that participated in the trade benefited.
Yeah.
All the countries. And the one that surprises me is some countries that didn't even have anything to do with slavery. They also abstained. I'm like, wait, I forgot the name of the country. But there's some countries that abstained for no reason. Fiji. Mm-hmm. I'm like, Fiji?
Yes, that's true, Fiji.
Fiji, you have black people in your country.
Exactly.
You have people, but their government is also, the current leader there. But I was quite impressed with the overwhelming support from, all those other countries. And then there were some people, fringe, I would say, who were saying how dare Ghana try to talk about reparations and all this other stuff, and not understanding that when, let's say, the reparations are going to be, if we get to it, right, when we get to it, I think the most prudent approach will be, even though the struggle is globalized, the disbursement of the preparations would have to be nationalized, in that Portugal will pay its people, right? Mm-hmm. England will pay almost everybody, right?
Yeah.
France will pay almost everybody.
Every French-speaking African countries, yeah.
Right, but there might be a little confusion in certain places where, like, places that belonged to Spain before, but U.S., the British came and took, like, New York. New York used to belong to the Dutch.
Yeah.
Then England came to take it from them. New York, Maryland, all those places, right? And so at some point, the trade was handed over to the next person, right? And so it will be interesting to see how it all pans out. Even like New Orleans, Louisiana, used to be French, Illinois. And then after the Louisiana Purchase, we inherited everyone and the slaves and everything else, Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But I was very happy this is getting the ball rolling. And eventually it's going to happen.
Well, in my view, as many other Africans that I have spoken with, if 172 countries of the world's 219 agreed that slavery is one of the world's greatest crimes, we have to agree that it is no longer the debate. We have to figure out who is responsible, like you said, for the damage, who pay for what, and which method. But what I think, though, is that the resolution did not so much emphasize monetizing. You
Which
know what
I think is a good thing.
Yeah. The aim was to put this on the world stage, and let's see where the world goes with this.
Right. I think before even Mahama came, what he was talking about was twofold, right? First was the reparations and the return of our artifacts.
Yes.
And then he was also talking about colonization. He didn't table colonization. I don't know why. But that was also part, reparations for the colonization and extraction of resources from the continent. But I want to go back to the reparations thing, because a lot of people, especially in Ghana, at least from what I was hearing from Ghana, a lot of people, opposition people, were questioning Ghana's motive behind it, because it said that, hey, how we wanted something that we were part of, like, there's catching and selling of slaves. And it also opened up the discourse, which a lot of, most of the countries that these people came from, the slave trade happened at, there's not been education on that history to us, that we don't really fully understand what happened and the impact it had when they left into the diaspora, right?
Yeah.
But only 5% of Africans were part of the trade. Most of the people who were doing it were the kings and the chiefs. There were villages that were devastated. We have fables and people who do plays up till now to demonstrate how mothers were crying about how they can't find their sons and daughters and stuff like that. And when you go to Cape Coast, they still do those things to really talk about what happened. The mimosa plant, people used to plant mimosa plant. When you step on it, the leaves fold. It's planted in front of their houses so that if the slave catchers come or somebody comes around, they can detect by looking at the grass. There's so much to the history and many layers. And the Africans, because of their slavery was not chattel slavery, they didn't think that you were being sold in perpetuity to go forever, be a slave to somebody, right?
There were no internet. No one knew what was going on at the time.
Exactly.
Once they pick you up, they lie to you, and you never see your parents again. It happened a lot in my village, the part of the Ivory Coast I came from. It's on the coast. It's on the coast. So they had a lot of these slave ship that came to those shores. Yeah. And I hear a story when I was a kid where my great parents were saying that where they had so they told them that they were going to work on the ship and then they would bring them back, and they never brought them back.
They never brought them back. There are so many. At first, it was prisoners of war. Because when we fight each other, prisoners of war. But when you capture people and you make them slaves, we will make them one of us, right? Now, more than anything else, the reparations is not for the trade, the selling of the people. That's not what the reparations is for. The reparations is for the hundreds of years of work that they did when they got to where they were going and weren't paid for. The people they dumped in the ocean to go collect insurance money.
Yes.
All this other stuff.
Yep.
So when they were having that conversation, I think a lot of people didn't understand it. And Mahama had to go back and explain it to people in Ghana that, hey, there are different facets to this.
Yeah.
It's not just because, we sold our people into slavery that, that's the end of the story, and that we don't deserve to go out there and be talking about reparations.
One interesting observation that I made when the Ghanaian diplomat was asked the reason the American government voted against the resolution, he said that the Americans, UN officials said they needed more time to study the resolution.
Yes.
That was the excuse. That's why they didn't. But if that's the case, you might as well abstain. Why did you vote against?
And then Israel also said that they were against the term the gravest.
Oh, they wanted to say that
one of the gravest. Look, they were playing nomenclature.
Exactly.
And so for me, it's quite interesting that they want to be recognized for what happened to them. So Israel wanted it to say it's one of the gravest. The resolution said it is the gravest. Nothing beyond that, which is very true. So it went on for 400 years.
Yeah.
We talk about genocide and everything else, but 400 years.
And millions under the Atlantic Ocean.
Yes.
Millions.
And England and all those people, they didn't want to contend with it. But talking about the World Cup is coming.
Yes,
a more lighter note.
Yes.
World Cup is coming. And guess who's not going? Nigeria is not going. And our guest today is from Nigeria, so maybe we can start off by talking about that when she comes.
Wow, Nigeria is not going?
Nigeria was holding a calculator, scientific calculator, doing all this math. If this person wins by 2 points and they don't qualify and this person loses, they were trying to figure out how to go.
Well, let's see. Nigeria is not going.
Nigeria is not going
because of a technicality, or is that because of the immigration?
They just didn't qualify.
Okay,
they just didn't qualify. They have a good set of players, but they don't have a good team. That I would also say the same thing about Ghana. Ghana qualified, but I don't think Ghana deserves to be there. If you were to ask me, I don't think we deserve to be there. I think Nigeria has a stronger team than Ghana does, which they just happen to be in the wrong group. But for me, I think my top, now you can tell me your top, but I think Cape Verde, Senegal, not in the same order. The order doesn't matter. Cape Verde, Senegal, Ivory Coast, and Morocco, and DRC are my top picks.
And DRC.
My top 5, DRC.
Well, for me, I'm not picking the teams, but I'm talking about the political aspect of it. The things that are going to make it difficult for some of the African supporters to come and support their team. It has been so politicized with the administration that that's what I want to talk about.
And then the prices of the games too.
Exactly. And the ticket prices are high, hotel, the same, flying from one state to another, from one country to another. We live in a capitalist system where they love to make money. Mm-hmm. Any opportunity is good for them, to make a lot of money. So it never happened before at any World Cup. There were no problem. I mean, the World Cup has happened. It took place in America already, and there were no problem. But this time here, it looked like they said that the Iranian team are not welcome. What else?
Yeah, Iran was talking about if they could move all the games to Mexico.
Yeah, that's what they should do. People, those countries that their supporters were banned to come to the United States, maybe they should move it to another place, Mexico or Canada.
Yes. I don't know if you're ready, Nado, but I'm ready.
Yes, I am. Okay.
She wears many hats, but she's a visionary community organizer, strategist, and artistic director committed to amplifying African diaspora voices and advancing health equity through arts, storytelling, and community-rooted initiatives. Founder of AWO, Our Center, and creative director at Afriicionado. Yeah, I like the way she played on the word. I'm not aficionado, but Afriicionado. I like that.
Afriicionado. That's
collective with over 2 decades of experience spanning multidisciplinary curation, intercultural program design, and humanitarian development. I could go on and on and on, but let her come on. Folake Phillps, welcome to Africa Straight Talk.
Thank you. Kwesi and Nado, really appreciate both of you for the opportunity given to be here. But let me respond to that World Cup wound that you just
Go ahead.
So when Nigeria's younger sibling, Ghana, is talking, we just, smile and say, don't worry, we love you all the same. You don't understand these things. I'm just joking. It's so lovely to be here with both of you. Thank you for this amazing work that you do. There's nothing better than when we control our narratives and we beat our chests like the lion in the jungle. So I really appreciate your work. Thank you.
You're welcome. Tell us more about this Our Center.
Awesome. It's pronounced Awo.
Awo. Okay.
Yes, Awo is
like Awolowo.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Those are our founding fathers and, some of our greatest leaders from Nigeria.
That's true.
So Awo in itself is not an English word. It's a Yoruba word from the Yoruba language of Nigeria. I'm a Yoruba woman from Nigeria. Mm-hmm. So I always like to share and introduce myself as such, and that I'm proudly Nigerian, jealous of Africa. Our is a non-profit organization that I founded in 2020, sadly, due to the murder of George Floyd and the global protests that went out for Black Lives Matter in the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
And our itself is an organization that exists to share, amplify, and celebrate the unheard stories of diverse individuals, youth, and families.
Nice.
And the way we do our work, we use the power of the arts and culture, advocacy, tech and innovation to, kind of design and create community-centered programs.
Nice.
So that we can build accurate cultural narratives. And when we do this, we like to promote equity, self-sufficiency, and holistic well-being within the communities that we serve. So that's kind of like the, quick mission, but I would share a bit more because of this platform. I'll share a bit more about our community brand and cultural collective that we created, I would say about 3 years now. 2.5 to 3 years now, called Afriicionado. So thank you for appreciating the play on the words.
Mm-hmm.
And,
very well done.
Yes, thank you so much. Actually, it was, we were kind of like, we pivoted to the 2 I's in the word, because by the time, when you decide this is the name after shortlisting and brainstorming, and then you go to, social media, what's available, and you don't see it, you have to kind of like, oh, what's going on here? And so when we went to social media to start to create our platform, Afriicionado was taken on Instagram. That's with 1 I. And we really wanted the name Afri to start it. So we just said, oh, if we had another I, it's still pronounced the same way.
Yeah, it's
so there you go. Afriicionado was birthed. And Afriicionado's vision is that we like to see a future where investments in African-inspired innovation and experiences flourish, basically creating a tapestry of, cultural connections in the process. And the mission of Afriicionado is that we use the rhythms of Afrobeats to ignite local communities in celebrating African culture and heritage. That is our core mission. We want to captivate hearts and minds for, social engagement, for education purposes, for entertainment, and more importantly, for global citizenship.
You're listening to Africa Straight Talk, your go-to place for African immigrant experience.
So could you talk now about the Africa Day Festival? Because, I have been in broadcasting for many years, and I never quite heard about Africa Day Festival.
Africa Day.
This is my first time I've been hearing that. Maybe I heard about it a long time ago, but I never paid good attention. So when did you first did the festival?
Okay, thank you. Before I go into the festival, I want to share a little bit of history around Africa Day so that our listeners can understand the origin stories. We thrive in, bringing things to the very beginning. It's like the African continent. Out of Africa is a real thing, right? That's all of humanity came out of Africa. So Africa Day in itself was put together as a day celebrated May 25 by what is now known as African Union. And the history behind it, the origin story is that there was a conference in Ghana by Kwame Nkrumah as early as 1958, thereabout, where independent African countries came together and met annually. And then by 1963, 5 years later, 30 of the independent leaders, is it 30 or 32? I'm not sure now, of the independent leaders came together in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and established what we call Organization of African Union. This was in 1963, 5 years later. And Organization of African Union became African Union.
AU, yeah.
Yes. And in that 63, when they came together, they established a charter and signed the charter, and May 25 was declared as the day to commemorate and celebrate Africa Day. And it's done annually since then. That's the origin story. And I do want to say this because, again, knowing our histories, knowing the issues, educating our communities, of the 30, maybe 32 countries that came together to sign that charter in 1963, Morocco was the only country that did not sign it. So there's been a history of Morocco not being sure of being an African country. And I do not mean to be political, but we need to educate people.
It is a fact, though. It is a fact. It is a fact. You are right. It's a fact. Most of for the North Africa, they don't feel that they are really in a continent. They feel that they are somewhere in Europe.
Did Morocco or one of them try to join the EU?
So they just came back, and the African Union flag has 55 stars now because they just accommodated them again. Mm-hmm. And this is as recent, the racism I talk about is as recent as the AFCON tournament in December all the way to January. And now they've asked for the cup back. I really hope Senegal doesn't give it back.
Give it back to them. Mm-mm.
No, they're not going to.
I really hope they don't. But I share that to really bring these histories and stories so people really know when people respond.
Context.
They know what the context, yes, they know what they're responding to. So anyway, that's how Africa Day commemoration and celebration started. It's a United Nations recognized and celebrated event as well. And we can thank the African leaders for starting this and putting it together. Sadly, it's also the official day is also the day that George Floyd was murdered. And I put those two together because founding this organization, AWO, in which Afriicionado is under the auspices of AWO, it was what kind of inspired me to start the organization. And so Africa Day, we started, to answer your question, Nado, we started Africa Day 3 years ago, so 3 years running now. And we started in Los Gatos, where we're based. That's in the South Bay, and San Jose as well in the South Bay. And this year we expanded and we're presenting the inaugural one in Sacramento.
So very good progress done. Actually, one of the things you said, Ghana is actually extending free visa rights to the rest of the continent, and it's starting on Africa Day on May 25th. So, and I remember the May 25th one that Nkrumah, not the May 25th, the 1950, the meeting that the countries came to, as soon as he came to power, he did that. I wanted to go back to the Africa Day, what you just said. Now, May 25th, is it happening concurrently in Sacramento or different days for each city?
So we've put it together as a series, and the first is Africa Day Sacramento, which is happening on May 10 on Mother's Day, 3 to 8 p.m. And all this information will be on our website. It's happening as an outdoor experience on estate farms owned by a person of African ancestry who's half African American and half Nigerian. And it's just a wonderful space that is very community focused. Immediately they heard we were coming to them for this. They're like, yes. Where it's and then again, it falls on Mother's Day. So we're going to have wonderful, specials and pampering activities for our mothers and aunties and anyone who plays the role of a mom or a guardian to a child. It's happening. We're going to have some soccer showcases, bring our collective African communities together. We're going to have live performances by spoken word artists who's African American, an Afrobeats artist who's Nigerian American, a traditional group, because we like to open with our folk and traditional African music. Lots of food and music, and just coming together in community to connect and really put cultural heritage at the fore. We need the visibility. As a population, we're not visible. I'll get into those later. But we need the visibility, we need the representation, and it's all of our Africa Day events are inclusive. Allies and friends of other ethnicities, we don't use the word races, they're very much welcome in that space.
So this is on the 10th in Sacramento. Then when is the next one?
The second one is our home base where the journey began, Africa Day Los Gatos. And that's happening May 23rd from about 4 to 8 p.m. It's happening at the JCC, the Jewish Community Center. I don't know what else to say. Sometimes these things are out of our control.
Exactly.
But yeah, and they are partners. We've worked together on many different things, talking about issues, standing together. But yes, Africa de los Gatos is happening May 23rd from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Jewish Community Center. Again, we're starting with traditional African music, live performances by our live band, rhythm exchange, a very thriving, budding Afrobeats band they're based in the East Bay, Oakland area. But, just doing amazing music. We're going to have our mayor there, giving an address, Mayor Moore, Rob Moore. We're going to showcase one of our, through storytelling, we're going to showcase and spotlight one of our African chiefs from Cameroon, who's going to be sharing about the culture and really educating us about our diversity as a people. We're really excited about Los Gatos, and there will be, of course, food as well, and a live DJ as well. And then Africa Day San Jose is so far is the finale.
Yeah.
Happening May 24th from 4:30 to 8 p.m. At St. James Park. Again, traditional African music opener. We're bringing a twist and making sure that our shared ancestry families are featured. So we're going to have a band called Kavaja and the Remedy bringing us some, wonderful reggae music. And then we'll close with our headline band, Oye and the Messengers, bringing us more Afrobeat music, not Afrobeats. Afrobeat. Rhythm exchange will bring us Afrobeat.
The first one, right? With Fela and all them.
Yes, exactly.
So we got a few minutes left. Where can people find all this information? What is your website? Where can people go to find all this good information about Africa Day? How they can purchase the tickets, all that stuff. To find the location, all the details. Where can they find
details? Yes, all the juicy details. Sacramento, let me highlight that Africa Day Sacramento, Africa Day Los Gatos, the tickets are $50. Each ticket includes the first meal and the first drink and entry. This is a time where organizations like us are not being funded, and we're relying on community. We want to pay our artists. We want to support our venues. We want to support the community. So please go on our website, afriicionado.org, afriicionado.org. And I'll say it one more time, AFRI, another I, CIONADO.org. And all the information, whether it's to get your tickets, whether it's to get your vendor application, because we're going to have vendors as well. We'll support our small business owners that will bring their goods and services to the community and, just display, sell those beautiful things. They're all going to be wonderful, wonderful events filled with live music, using the music of Afrobeat according to our mission, bringing people together and having this opportunity to address isolation needs because we're very far spread apart, and to really bring the issues to the fore, issues of not having visibility, having limited access to culturally responsive programs, being underrepresented in data systems and policies, and economic and workforce barriers. Africa Day is evolving to be a platform of fun, education, entertainment, and critical issues around civic empowerment and civic engagement. And there's a lot there because now we've also been able to work with our City Hall in San Jose and our county in Santa Cruz will be having inaugural Africa Day flag raising ceremonies where the African Union will be raised and people will gather and outreach together. So we're really excited at where this is going. And yes, Kwesi, we do have plans to move from the grassroots level to a statewide approach for Africa Day, where different cities, different towns throughout the month of May are celebrating Africa Day, and we're working on that.
We have been speaking to our esteemed guest, Folake Phillps, who is a community organizer and the founder of Our Right Center, also the creator of the Afriicionado Collective.
This has been Africa Straight Talk. I, along with Kwesi Wilson, truly appreciate your support, including Zika. Reach out. We love to hear from you, your thought, and keep the conversation going. Find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast by searching Africa Straight Talk. And of course, spread the word. Tell a friend or 10 about us. Interested in sponsoring our podcast or being a guest on our show? Email us, africastraighttalk@gmail.com. Thank you for listening to this episode. We invite you to check back here for our next one. In the meantime, be safe, be well, and love one another.